Hi, my name's Eric, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about AURORA. In 2018, she released Infections of a Different Kind, which was part one of a two-part album project. I really enjoy AURORA's music and I've already listened to this project, so this video isn't going to be a first reaction, but it's going to be more in the style of my Marina Electraheart video, where I go in-depth and break down the lyrics. As always, if you have any requests for albums or songs or anything else you'd like to see me react to or analyze, let me know in the comments down below, and please subscribe to be here when I post new videos every week. And let's dive right in with track number 1, Queendom. Verse 1 opens with the lyrics, "The underdogs are my lions, the silent ones are my choir. The women will be my soldiers, with the weight of life on their shoulders." So with underdogs and silent ones, she sets up groups of people that are repressed or oppressed. But to AURORA, these groups are important and powerful, as she compares them to basically their opposites, underdogs versus lions, and silent ones versus choirs. So in the following line, she sets up the expectation that she's going to be dealing with a marginalized group and its opposite. Specifically, the marginalized group is women, and she frames the opposite as being soldiers. So she's implying that women aren't typically seen as fighters or as powerful, but to her, they are. She expands on that idea by saying that they carry the weight of life on their shoulders. In a more conventional sense, this evokes the idea of women as life givers, as child bearers and child rearers, but in a less traditional sense, it emphasizes the importance of women to basically humanity as a whole, whereas she suggested earlier that they might be seen as silenced or as underdogs. On the pre-chorus, she says, "I will be your warrior, I will be your lamb." Again, we have these opposites with warrior and lamb. Lambs are typically seen as peaceful and docile, which is the opposite of being a warrior. But again, that's the point. She doesn't have to embody traditional masculine stereotypes of aggression and of dominance to be a powerful person. She can be gentle and strong. And on the chorus, she repeats the phrase, "Till queendom come." This is a reversal of the phrase, "till kingdom come," which in Christian theology typically refers to heaven. But of course, with the idea of a kingdom, it foregrounds maleness. Here, she subverts traditional male-centric ideas to assert the importance of women. On the second verse, she says, "The sea waves are my evening gown, and the sun on my head is my crown. I made this queendom on my own, and all the mountains are my throne." Here she's moving towards images of nature, implying that the natural world gives her her power. She also uses typical images of being a queen, specifically a gown, a crown, and a throne, to expand on what makes her powerful, specifically that the ocean and the mountains are so vast that her kingdom or her queendom is also that big and that important and powerful and influential, which on the one hand evokes the feminization of nature through the idea of Mother Nature, but on the other hand, again, tells us that she is self-sufficient and can do all of this and gain all of this power by her own volition. On the bridge and through the end of the song, she says, "I hunt the grounds for empathy and hate the way it hides from me. With care and thirst I have become. You have a home in my queendom." Just like before she said she can be a lamb or a warrior, here she collapses the ideas of kindness and violence, saying that the thing that she is striving for, that she is hunting for, isn't dominance or power or violence, but kindness. And then, whereas a typical song that professes someone's power might take a more aggressive, alienating approach and say, "This is my kingdom and you have to submit to me," here she says, "You have a home in my queendom." She's saying that this vision of the world, this idea of the power of womanhood and of kindness, is welcoming and can create a better vision of a kingdom or queendom. So maybe the following songs will also expand on this idea of AURORA's vision of the world, specifically through the lens of womanhood. Song number 2 is Forgotten Love. She opens the song by saying, "Can you tell if I'm cold, if I'm out of daydreams? If I lose what is loved, will a new love awake me? I am touched by wonder when I'm blind in the dark." Here she associates the idea of being cold with being out of daydreams. Through the image of coldness, she's talking about emotional detachment and maybe disillusionment. which makes sense then with relation to the idea of being out of daydreams. She characterizes coldness or detachment as a state of lacking imagination. And to expand on the idea of being cold and alone and disillusioned, she talks about losing love and wonders if she will find new love. To me, this feels less like intimate love or romantic love and more like the love that she displayed on the first track by saying, "You have a home in my queendom," and that she was searching for empathy. She already said that it was a struggle to find empathy, so here she's worrying, will that struggle overpower her and make her lose love? But then she says that she's touched by wonder when she's in the dark. So it sounds like she's saying that she still does have that spark, that ability to daydream and to imagine a better future or a better life. Because darkness in music usually tells us about hopelessness. So if she still has wonder in a hopeless situation, then maybe she can still find love. On the pre-chorus, she says, "But you drown me in daylight. Don't swim with me, darling. I prefer the sound of you when you are away." So if the dark is the place where she can still wonder, then the light maybe is a place where she can't wonder. Maybe she's receiving too many messages, is experiencing too much stimulation to have her own ideas and to assert her own imagination. Maybe this emerging love interest is suppressing her wonder and her self-confidence, which then leads to the idea that she would rather have this person be away from her. So to me now we're zooming more into a particular relationship, whereas before we were in a broader sort of global scale. Here she is talking about her relationship with one other person. So to me it feels like a breakup song, but specifically through that global lens that she's had since the beginning of the album, where it's not just that this person is maybe making her unhappy or trying to convince her of something that she doesn't believe, but that specifically they're disrupting her connection to nature and her status as a queen. On the chorus she says, "If I am left with a rose in my hand, let it die. It's the beauty in forgotten love." A rose, of course, is a symbol of a romantic relationship. It is something that one lover gives another. And just like she's saying she wants her love interest to leave her, she's saying she wants the image of this love to die. The lines that stand out to me on verse 2 are, "I forget how the sun feels when she isn't around me, and my dreams become sweeter when something is missing. I'm in love with the hunt itself. It makes me feel alive." Here again, she feminizes the sun, a very important force. So again, she frames power as feminine. And just like before, she said that she was most able to dream in the dark when she didn't have light or ideas being imposed on her. Here she says her dreams are sweeter when something is missing. As a creative, this can be the idea of creating art when you're in pain. But if we're going with the themes that she's had so far on this album, then as a queen and as a powerful force, she wants to build things where there is a lack. She feels fulfilled when she can replace nothing with something and be creative and imaginative and improve people's lives. And just like on Queendom, she said that she hunts for empathy, here she says that she is in love with the hunt and it makes her feel alive. She isn't content with being given empathy. She wants to work for empathy and to find empathy and to enact kindness in a way that takes effort and that can be empowering to her. On the bridge, she sings, "I release my body and there is no ghost of you inside my mind. I am moving on and thank God you let me try." Here it's really clear that she's talking about a breakup, and specifically it is forgotten love because she can no longer feel the love. It no longer sticks with her. But specifically the difference is that she is releasing her body. The connection that she had with the other person maybe is mostly bodily. It's an intimate physical relationship. But the person doesn't remain in her mind. So just like earlier she said that she feels empowered by imagination and by daydreaming, here when she is just allowed to engage with her mind and to disconnect from the body, from the way that she connected with this other person, she can feel strong and confident again. She says, "You are the reason I can dance within a fire of goodbyes." Fire is a good image for goodbyes because it often represents destruction, but it's also cathartic and can be regenerative. So here when she's dancing in that fire, she is acknowledging that she is celebrating a destruction, but one that can bring her new life and new fire and passion and emotion and strength. And finally she says, "I can lie in a dark room without the feeling that I'm lonely," which again can be credited to the fact that she has this active imagination. So on this song, she's expanded on Queendom, by talking about the specific mechanisms by which she harnesses her power, and that power is imagination. Track number 3 is Gentle Earthquakes. On verse 1, she says, "How cold the tear can feel on warm skin." Typically, we might think of tears as warm, but here she is talking about tears as cold. Earlier, when she mentioned cold, she meant emotional detachment and hopelessness and isolation. So here, this tear is like an act of mourning for this disillusionment that she's experiencing. And her skin is warm, meaning that she herself is warm and connected and satisfied. On the pre-chorus, she says, "Can't stay here, I'll throw myself in the ocean. I lift myself and run." Here, throwing herself in the ocean and lifting herself up feel like opposites, because you would think of being thrown in the ocean as giving up. But with her talking about her connection to nature, this is just one instance of a way that she can escape. She can embrace her connection with nature and detach from whatever is plaguing her. On the chorus, the title shows up when she says, "Like a gentle earthquake, it intensifies. It's like my lungs are breathing fire." Before, she was dancing in fire when she was experiencing this breakup and the catharsis from that breakup. A moment ago, she was talking about running, and personally, when I run, I feel like my lungs are on fire. So we have this fire and this earthquake, images of destruction, but when she is Mother Nature, when she is the queen of natural forces, these violent natural images aren't necessarily destructive, but like I said before, regenerative. They are cathartic. On verse 2, she says, "The fascinating way you change your color, the ugly and the flawless beauty of us." To me, this feels like she's still talking about this relationship that she's abandoned on the prior song. If a person changes their color, I think of deception and of duplicitousness. That could be a reason why the relationship didn't work out. So of course, if they change themselves to appear flawless, then that can be an ugliness. After the second chorus, she says, "Twisted body parts moving synchronized, watching lightning strike in my lover's eyes. All the flowers grow to a luscious field. All connecting love becomes a human shield." With the twisted body parts moving in sync, I think of, a romantic encounter, and the lightning in her lover's eyes is like a moment of ecstasy. It is a natural embodiment of the passion that they have for each other. And then we return to images of flowers, where before the rose represents their love, here a garden growing is like the regeneration of that love. And that love she describes as a human shield. She feels protected by the presence of love. But specifically, the love is all connecting. If the love is connecting all, is connecting everyone and everything, then that is powerful, that is protective. If everyone feels love, then everyone is protected by that love. On the bridge, she says, "In the 11th hour, finally a hidden flower, in the last moment, finally opens." The 11th hour usually refers to something happening at the last possible moment, like being saved at the last second, which leads me to believe that over the course of this breakup, this romantic encounter has happened that has rekindled the relationship and saved it from death. And again, we go back to the flower that has been created by this romantic contact, and the flower is blossoming, which is a common symbol of fertility and of love and growth. So here she's saying that the love has reemerged at the last possible moment. The relationship was about to end, but then they shifted course, they got back together, and now things are better. So then on the final repeat of the chorus, it makes sense that she says, "My body will be the truth," because through this bodily contact, she rekindled her love. This also ties back to the idea on the prior song where she talked about her relationship primarily being physical, and she could detach through it in her mind. So of course, the reattachment happens through the body. So maybe this primarily physical relationship will work out for her, and maybe it won't. We'll find out. Track number 4 is All Is Soft Inside. On the first verse, she says, "I don't know why, but I feel down. You need to know I can't go on." So in very simple terms, she's saying, I can't continue this relationship. On the last song, she talked about lifting herself up, and here she says she feels down. So if her own power is to raise herself to make herself feel good, then this relationship is making her feel bad. She continues saying, "I was a rose, I was an animal, don't let me change, don't let me go. When she says don't let me go, she's experiencing this emotional conflict that basically anyone would in a breakup, especially in this particular breakup where they seem to be on again, off again. But earlier she described the symbol of their love as a dying rose. Here she says that she is the rose, which implies that she is the love. She is the person who holds the love, who embodies the love, and if the rose is dying, then maybe her love is dying too, but specifically inside her, not necessarily in the other person. On the pre-chorus, she says, all around is stone, all is soft inside. That seems contradictory, but if what she sees is stones, but she can feel that on the inside is softness, then she knows that she has to break down an artifice to get to that softness. She has to look beyond what she sees and use her imagination that so far has been so powerful to imagine a situation in which she feels softness and warmth and love. On the chorus, she says, all that I know lies within emotion. Words remain unspoken, lead me through the dark. So again, she goes back to the idea of using her heart and her mind to guide herself through uncertainty. The unspoken words can be a lack of communication in the relationship, but she also has said before that her power is within herself, not when she externalizes or uses her body, and speech is a way of using the body. So of course, her imagination would be more powerful than that. So just like she wanted to access the softness in the hardness of a stone, here she wants to access the emotion in a hard, cold, emotionless relationship. On verse 3, she explains further the importance of this emotion. She says, I carry more than you see. My dreams are bigger than me. Just like on Queendom, she talked about women carrying the weight of life. Here she refers to that idea again, saying, this suffering is beyond me. I have a responsibility to other people and to myself that is being hindered by this unhealthy relationship. And on the outro, she says, did you know that we're all turning softer inside? We can save what is pure if the hearts can collide. So here she is taking on a queen-like role in explaining what to do to make a better world. Just like before she talked about love as being an all-connecting force, here she says if we open up to each other, if we can open our hearts and connect with each other, then everything will be softer. Softer, of course, bringing to mind like the lamb, with empathy and kindness. Song number 5 is It Happened Quiet. Verse 1 says, eyes blue and hollow as it rains against their will, feathers falling out of a pillow as if time's standing still. The reference to rain immediately after the hollow blue eyes makes me think that the rain is actually tears, and the idea of the tears being against the eye's will makes me think that it is a person fighting tears. This person is lying down in bed, everything is slow, hollow, sad, and cold, and they are crying and they can't control it, so this is a moment of a very strong emotional low. On the chorus she says, words falling out through the window, all that remains is a silent call. Just like before, she couldn't use words to explore her emotions. Here, they are escaping through the window. They cannot be contained in this space, presumably of a bedroom. So whereas she or whoever is crying is in a stagnant, depressed state, the words are more active. They are the truth that is escaping, while she or whoever the subject is in a state of stasis and can't muster the energy or the power to express themselves. On verse 2, she says, you fell apart like a stone can be broken into sand, 1,000 pieces spread across a crying land. Here she brings back the idea of a stone, where she said before that she was surrounded by stones and by hardness. That was the relationship. Now the hardness has broken apart. To me, this brings to mind the idea of masculinity and wanting to always come off as hard and aggressive and powerful, and how that falling apart can damage relationships, and that's what's happening here. And specifically, the idea of a crying land tells us either that she is in such a state of desperation that she feels like the entire world is crying, like if she's Mother Nature, then nature is crying with her, or if the land is crying, this is an issue that affects people across that land. There are many people suffering the same ways that they are. On the bridge, she asks, are your dreams as dead as they seem? She has this power of imagination to access her emotions, but her partner does not. So she wonders, does her partner, or now maybe her ex, have the ability, like her, to access their emotions and the power inside them to imagine and to address and confront what they're feeling? And finally she sings, "Don't you speak over my voice, I will return from the shadows." Just like on Queendom she described women as voiceless and as underdogs, here she is positioning herself in a similar way. She is being talked over, she is being relegated to the shadows. She feels suppressed and she is asserting herself. So even though she's being talked over, she will speak. And even though she's in the shadows, she will be seen. So here again, she's declaring her power and using it to assert herself in her relationship. Song number 6 is Churchyard. On the first iteration of the chorus, she says, "He told me I belong in a churchyard." A churchyard can just generally describe the space of a church, but it often also describes a cemetery at a church. So this guy, presumably her partner, is saying that she should be restricted, to the point that maybe she should even be dead. He's trying to tell her where she should be and trying to control her, again through religious imagery, just like her subversion of the idea of "Till Kingdom Come" on the opening track. On the first verse she says, "Words pointy like arrows, wounds no one can see. He closed all the windows as his anger broke free." Again, we have the idea of him being shut off. He is closing the windows just like before. He was hard as a stone. He is emotionally shutting himself in, but the emotions and the words get out anyway. And now we know the reason why those words got out anyway, and that is that he was angry. He had an outburst towards her, and that's where the emotions came out. So he didn't handle the breakup and the emotions healthily. Just like before she framed the search for empathy as a hunt, here she is using images of violence to talk about this breakup. On verse 2 she says, "Hate followed him gently, black seeds in his heart, roots tearing the love in him apart." So if the seeds are black, we can imagine that like the darkness before. It can describe his internal darkness, his anger and hatred. So those black seeds are comparable to the hate that followed him. But why specifically is the hate gentle? To me, this feels like the mirror image of when she was talking before about hunting for empathy. If she has to use all of her force and her might to find kindness, then the opposite of her hunting for kindness is hatred and evil hunting people. So if you have to put forth effort to find empathy, then hatred might come more gently or easily. So of course, when the seeds of this hatred are planted and then they grow, they tear him apart from the inside. This hatred is self-destructive. And then of course it leads to the destruction of the relationships that he has. So again, that hatred manifests itself in the violence of him telling her not only where she belongs, but also possibly suggesting that she should be dead. Song number 7 is Soft Universe. On verse 1 she sings, "There's ice in my water, and when I drink, it cuts my tongue. There's glass on the playground, it cuts my skin when I run." So here there's a parallel between drinking water and playing and running. So the water, of course, is sustenance, and the playing and the running is the sort of catharsis that she talked about on Gentle Earthquakes, I believe. So in both of these situations where she is trying to live her life and be healthy and happy, she is being injured. Specifically with ice, we go back to the idea of emotional coldness. So when she's trying to keep herself alive and be healthy, she is receiving harm from emotional coldness. And then on the playground, the glass brings to mind the windows that shut off her partner in their relationship. So again, when she wants to enjoy life, she is being harmed by emotional coldness and being closed off emotionally. It might not be Aurora herself who is closed off emotionally, but there is some sort of sense of emotional dissatisfaction that is invading all aspects of her life. But then on the pre-chorus, things turn around. She says, "And from the dark into the light, I saw a stone burst into life. And in the corner of your eye, I saw a dream that never died." Just like before, stones represented her partners being closed off emotionally, now the stone is bursting into life, so maybe he's not closed off anymore. And just like his inability to dream represented that same sort of emotional suppression, now the dream never died. So maybe his love is still there, and there is still a spark. On the chorus, she says, "Speak to me with love in your words. Make for me a soft universe." Just like before, she wanted to use her imagination to find the softness in the stone, to break open her partner's emotional hardness. Here she is encouraging him to do that through his words. Whereas earlier his words were harmful to her, now she wants him to change course and to use his words to help her and make her feel good and not to hurt her. Later in the song, she talks about a different relationship and says, "Chaos came, we laid our head down on the feather cotton bed. We find a heart and catch your breath." Earlier, when she talked about feathers and cotton and a bed, she was describing emotional dejection. But now, in confronting chaos, she is exploring a romantic relationship, and now she has a new relationship with the bed and with the materials of the bed. Because instead of finding coldness and hardness here, she now finds a heart. So far, she's had a very specific set of images to describe the world of these relationships, with the ideas of hardness and softness, hot and cold, flowers and beds. A lot of it is classic romantic imagery, but she expands on it in very naturalistic directions and uses that to explore some more of the gender dynamics of her relationships. The final song is the title track, "Infections of a Different Kind." On verse 1, she says, "It's a feeling growing old with time, like a restless in the leaves calming down. The world is a hole and we all seem to fall down under." Now here, when she says down under, I don't think she's referring to Australia. I think she's referring to the idea of downness that she talked about earlier, about feeling emotionally down. So over time, there is a restlessness that is settling down. That restlessness could be dissatisfaction, but it feels to me like that restlessness is the same sort of passion that she had in wanting to run and leave and to be exuberant and empathetic. On the pre-chorus, she says, "And if there is a God, I think he would shake his head and turn away." Just like she's brought up religious imagery before with Kingdom Come and the Churchyard, here she is saying that this coldness that has consumed the world would make a deity look down with despair. On the chorus, she says, "So belong to us all, be God in the shape of a girl, who walks this world, and I beg to be drained from the pain I have soaked myself in, so I can stay okay." On Queendom, she talked about her and other women bearing the weight of the world. And here, I thought it was interesting immediately that she referred to God as he, because so far she's referred to every powerful force as feminized. So where earlier the coldness and hardness of maleness and masculinity plagued her personal relationships, here she's suggesting that some of those same ideas and attitudes are just generally shameful and harmful on a broader scale. So she's saying, be God, be godly, be holy, be good, but in the shape of a girl. She is suggesting that pursuing holiness might require taking on the gentleness and the empathy that she has set up so far as being characteristics of womanhood. But she also acknowledges that it's hard. She's been burdened with the weight of the world already as a woman, so it's hard then to pick up the slack and to make the world a better place when you are already challenged and marginalized and silenced and seen as an underdog, just like on Queendom. Then finally, she reveals what the title of this project refers to and says, "Infections of a different kind. The world has been attacked by our pain." The infection here is emotional pain and turmoil. It is detachment. It is a lack of love. And that is what is basically a sort of plague of biblical proportions on the world. She goes even further on the second pre-chorus and says, "If there's a God, I think he can't hear all of us." She feels that religious institutions and ideas and systems of power are maybe set up against certain people. And if we're connecting it back to her ideas on Queendom, the idea of the marginalization of women, she's saying the sources of power and institutions of power, whether they be terrestrial or celestial, aren't concerned with the needs of women. And on the outro, she says, "This is the breath." The breath being like her speech. She is manifesting her ideas through her words, through the breath of singing her music. So the breath is like a breath of life, the declaration that there is something wrong and it needs to be changed. So this project as a whole so far is like a call to action in defense of womanhood, and sort of a rallying cry against the hardness and coldness of our world. She suggests that if we open up to each other, we can create a better world, but as it stands right now, this isn't gonna cut it. People are suffering because we reject the ideas of empathy and warmth and softness as being weak. But she's saying that perceived weakness is actually strength. It is something that can strengthen our ties to each other and protect us as people and make us happy and healthy and successful. So while this largely is a breakup album, I like that she uses images of nature to widen its scope and to make a broader statement about people in general. So that was my analysis of Infections of a Different Kind. If you'd like me to react to part 2, A Different Kind of Human, let me know in the comments down below, or if you have any other requests, and please subscribe if you'd like to be here when I post new videos every week. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time, that's it.